thing that's most fulfilling to me is being able to help someone. It doesn't matter if it's in the health world or coaching or motivating someone else. Like, it makes me so happy to see someone else win. So one of my favorite things to do is to watch like The Price is Right or something like that. Like, I would get so excited when somebody else would win something, and my mom was like, "Sit down. It's not like you won." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's so exciting." Or when Oprah was giving out cars, like, I was crying, but like, I didn't have a car. But it's exciting to see somebody else's excitement and their passion and their drive, and I just love being able to help them through that. Just be, you feel their vibe. It's great.
Today, I'm chatting with Tania Yousaf, a nurse practitioner who's been rocking the scrubs since 2011. She's done it all, from family practice, labor and delivery, fertility, you name it. And now she's taken her passion for helping people and turned it into a thriving mobile IV business. Side note, when she's not helping her patients or scaling her brand, she's actually into stock and options, kind of like a Wall Street pro. Super weird. On today's episode, we'll talk about her journey of actually missing the MCAT to balancing a W-2 while building her own business and so much more. Let's get started. You know what's interesting about that name?
What?
I didn't realize how many Yousafs there are.
It's a very common name.
I had no idea.
Yeah. It's like Joseph. It's Joseph in the English language, but Yusuf in Middle Eastern, South Asian.
Because I was doing my research and I put in Yousaf, of course, and I was like, there's a lot of other people that are not Tania with the name.
That's right. So I usually tell people it's funny because I'll go on a date and eventually we'll get to this point where I'm like, you could just Google me, just type in Tania Nurse Practitioner Austin. You don't even need Yousaf in there. Like,
facts.
You can find me that way.
It's almost like Johnson, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited. To be here. So where I'd like to start is actually with a quick story about the IV that you provided me and some of our friends.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I ever actually told you this. So not that long after that happened, I got some lab work done. And they did the lab work thing, and then I had a call with a health coach. And I'll never forget, because the health coach, she gets on the call, and she's like going over my lab results. And she's like, she was concerned. She's like, "Do you take like a B12 supplement or something like that?" And I was like, "No." She's like, "Well, your B12 is like off of the chart."
Oh my God. Oh,
it was like obnoxiously high.
Wow.
And she's telling me like the health risks and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I just recently had an IV and I almost positive it was B12 in there."
There was B12 in there, yeah. It was not a lot though. It was not a lot. It probably didn't cause that, but
no.
It didn't help it either. That's for sure.
I'm sure it was a host. I eat a lot of meat and et cetera. But like, it was just so funny where I was like, she was concerned. I was like,
Yeah. So no more B12 for you. Yeah. I think that's the lesson. That's the moral of the story.
But enough about me. So I want to start with you.
Okay.
So you are doing this amazing, at this current moment, mobile IV business here in Austin, doing it for coming up on 2 years now.
Yeah.
Before we even get into that business and like how things are going and some of the lessons learned, let's rewind on you just a little bit in terms of why nursing?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So like many other South Asian children growing up, someone had to be a doctor in the family. And so I was on this pre-med path for quite some time and realized the day of my MCAT, I woke up late the day of my MCAT. It was like 8:15. My roommate comes knocking on my door. And she's like, "Tania, aren't you supposed to be at your MCAT?" And I was like, "Oh," cursing. I just woke up freaking out. And I was like, there's obviously no way I can go freaking out now. And truthfully, like, I didn't want to actually take my MCAT. I didn't want to actually go to med school. I didn't want to go through the rigmarole of like 10 years of med school and then residency and all that stuff. I was just doing it because my parents wanted me to do it. And so I think that day, one of my biggest fears was calling my parents to tell them I slept through the time of my MCAT. And when I called them and I told them that, they were like, "You know what? It's okay. Just breathe, calm down. Like, we'll figure it out. No problem. You can always sign up for the next one." And in my heart, I was like, I don't want to do that. I just don't. And so in undergrad, like the first 2 years of undergrad, I worked at a primary care clinic, and it was a physician and a nurse practitioner that worked there. And I started working the front desk, then learned triage, then back lab, and became a manager at some point, all through like my undergrad years. And the thing that I think pulled me into nursing the most, it was two things actually. One was seeing her and seeing how she treated her patients. I'm going to adjust this a little bit. Seeing how she treated her patients. Like, she would sit up on the bed and like draw a diagram on the paper and like actually teach them what was going on with them versus just saying, "Oh, you got a stomach ache, here's a medication, peace out." So that really impacted me. And then seeing my parents go through their own health journeys and being admitted into the hospital, whether it was an emergency or something planned, it was the nurses that were there for them, like all the time. The doctors come in 5 minutes, and granted, that's all they need to get their assessment. They get the information from the nurses and they're gone. But the nurses were there. The nurses were sitting with us, laughing with us, crying with us. And I was like, that's what I want to be to somebody else. And so the day before graduation from Texas A&M, I walked into the Allied Health office and I was like, I want to go to nursing school. And she looked at me and she goes, aren't you graduating tomorrow? I'm like, yeah, I am. How do I do this? And so 9 months later, I was enrolled at UT Health Science Center, San Antonio, for their bachelor's of nursing program, and it was an accelerated program. So it's 15 months back-to-back semesters to get my bachelor's degree in nursing after I had just finished my bachelor's degree in nutrition. And as I was going through nursing school, I knew as I went through various rotations that I didn't want to do sick care. As weird as that sounds as a nurse, I fell in love with labor and delivery and birth and starting families and like the process of going through labor. And I left nursing school saying labor and delivery or bust. And that was my first job. I was a labor and delivery nurse, and I was there for about 2 years, and I absolutely loved it.
What were some of the early lessons because you worked at Houston Methodist, correct?
Yeah.
What were some of the early lessons from working there as an RN?
Oh man, a lot. Number one was some doctors are nice, others are not. But it's also because they have crazy schedules as OBGYNs. So you got to give them some credit. Like their schedules are insane. But I think some of the biggest things that you learn in that environment, teamwork is key. Empathy is so important. Some people just want to be heard and listened to. And when it comes in that moment of labor, when a mom is giving birth, like you were their number one coach. Their husband can be there, the doctors can be there, the other techs can be there. But like as the labor and delivery nurse, I remember I felt so empowered to be able to coach a mom and say, you are almost there. Like we can see the baby's head. Come on, take a big deep breath and push again. And I think that was the most rewarding and the most exciting part of being there, is to be able to help empower another woman to be able to create life. It was incredible.
Have you ever taken a personality test?
Like
there's a bunch of them, Myers-Briggs or DISC.
I've done a Myers-Briggs.
Do you know what you are?
ESFJ.
Say ESFJ.
Yeah.
Do you know what the title is of that one? The reason I ask is because we can look it up. But the reason I ask is because you mentioned empathy. Mm-hmm. Are you pretty high empathy?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've learned that over the years.
Okay.
Yeah. In good and bad ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
In good and bad ways. Yeah.
Well, it makes so much sense, is the desire to get into nursing.
It's true. It's incredibly rewarding. And I think I've learned over the years that the thing that's most fulfilling to me is being able to help someone. It doesn't matter if it's in the health world or coaching or motivating someone else. Like it makes me so happy to see someone else win. So one of my favorite things to do is to watch like The Price is Right or something like that. And like I would get so excited when somebody else would win something, and my mom was like, "Sit down. It's not like you won." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's so exciting!" Or when Oprah was giving out cars, like I was crying, but like I didn't have a car. But it's exciting to see somebody else's excitement and their passion and their drive, and I just love being able to help them through that. Just be, you feel their vibe. It's great.
You got strong mirror neurons. That's good.
I love it. Yeah. There you go.
That's my girlfriend as well. She's a chiropractor, and she is the same thing. Like she legitimately, I think we talked about this. She won't watch scary movies. Are you the same way? Maybe
I don't watch scary movies.
Yeah,
no.
She's the exact same way. She's like, I can't because I feel what they feel.
Yeah.
And when she described that to me, I was like, oh, I get it.
It's insane.
I don't get that, but like I get what you're saying, right?
It's hard to disconnect from that. And then you carry it for like days on end afterwards. It's like in your nerves. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's
I don't
crazy.
have that. I'm not wired that way.
I wish I could. I can't watch horror movies. I just can't.
So if I read correctly, Washington State as well, correct?
I was in Washington State for a little bit, yeah.
What were maybe some of the differences between practicing in Texas versus Washington State?
So as a nurse practitioner, practicing in Texas, it's a restricted state. So there's only certain things that I'm allowed to do, even though my license technically allows me to do more. In the state of Washington, it's called full practice authority. So I don't have to have a physician overseeing me. I can prescribe up to like a certain schedule level of drug, et cetera. If I wanted to open my own practice, I could do so freely without any oversight or anything like that. Like you're like a practicing physician, essentially. within reasons of your license, of course, and your education.
Can I pause you for a second? That actually seems backwards to me based on what I feel like I know about Texas. Texas, generally speaking, is a pretty like, we don't have any state tax. Like it's pretty easy to start a business.
Yeah.
But it's weird because like in the healthcare space, it's actually the opposite.
Very conservative. It's very conservative.
So weird.
There's a constant battle between like the Texas nurse practitioners and the Texas medical board in trying to get that full practice authority here. I feel like eventually Texas will get there. It's just going to take some time. It's going to take some time to get there. But it's exciting to see other states become full practice authority states, which is great. You can always get, like, for my business, I could get cross-licensed in like Arizona or something like that and practice there, which would be fantastic because they're a full practice authority state. But yeah, for the home state, I don't feel like it's a total downside for me in what I do, but mostly because my medical directors are fantastic. But I think there are some nightmare medical directors that won't allow their nurse practitioners to do certain things. But essentially what it comes down to is there's a physician that oversees me that has to review 10% of my charts that I have to meet with, once a month to just make sure that I'm not going rogue, is what it comes down to.
So I know it sounds like you've generally enjoyed your time as a nurse and working in these different facilities and trying new places and having different directors. I'm curious as to then what inspired you to even start the Nurse Friend business. And the reason I ask that is because like I would say 99.9% of the people that I talk to do it out of pain of like, I hate this setting, I hate to have to deal with whatever the pain might be.
Yeah.
Where do you fall into that camp?
Definitely different than that 99% for sure. So I currently work at a fertility clinic as a fertility nurse practitioner. I'm trained in family practice, but have always niched into women's health and OBGYN, and then had this opportunity to work in fertility, and I jumped on it. And I've loved every minute of it. As you start seeing these patients that are going through IVF or egg preservation or, embryo transfers, the intensity of the treatments, including the injections they have to give themselves every day, it's daunting for someone who's never picked up a needle or a syringe before, or let alone given themselves a shot. Now you're like, here's this whole box of stuff. Go figure it out. You can do it. Just stick it in your stomach. It's easy. No, it's not. That box is like half my size. It's crazy. And so it was actually one of my physicians that I work with that kind of brought this to my attention and was like, why don't you look into this? Like you have the knowledge and the time and the drive to make this happen and be able to fill this gap for our patients. And I was like, you know what? Let me look into it. And at first I was like, no, I would hate to like do work outside of work. That seems like such a drag. And then as I looked into it and as I kind of started paying more and more attention to these patients that we're seeing, I'm like, holy smokes, this is a big deal. Like people really do need this help. And I can literally do that. I can literally go to someone's house and coach them through this. And I remember my very first patient. So I think I LLC'd in like May. My first patient was like 1st of June, I think, was my first fertility patient.
Damn.
And I went into her home and like this woman was so scared of needles and like didn't want to know how to touch them. She didn't want to know about anything about the medications. She was like, I'm just going to lay down here and you just do the shots.
How did you find her?
It was through our clinic.
Okay.
Yeah, it was through our clinic. And it felt empowering, and I felt grateful that somebody felt that they could trust me to help them with this, and that I literally had the knowledge and expertise to be able to do that, the skill set to do that. So that was my first patient.
That's odd that a physician pushed you in that direction. Do you still talk? I mean, I'm assuming you're friends with this person.
Yeah, I still work with her
every
day.
Awesome. Oh, okay.
Every day. So the physicians I work with are incredibly supportive of the business because it's enhancing their patient care and the lives of their patients and their ability to go through IVF. There's only so much we can teach them in the clinic. There's only so much time. There's only so much nurse power there. And so it's a win-win situation for us. And I don't just see patients from our clinic. I have a great marketing team who gets me all these patients, but I see patients from like our competitors' clinics. I see patients from whose physicians are in other cities that happen to live in Austin that have heard about me through social media or through fertility support groups online, through word of mouth. I don't run ads for any of this stuff. It's a lot of it is just referral based from people that are just telling their friends and saying, hey, if you're scared of needles or you can't do this, or your partner's out of town and you can't do the shot yourself, call Tania. And I'm like, yeah, I will be there.
Has your physician asked for a cut of this?
No.
Are they like, this is working out so nice for you.
Right? We can invest into it. I'm sure there's probably some kind of clause in there that says they can't, but I don't know. Maybe we'll have to breach that topic.
You briefly alluded to the marketing team. What do you think the differentiator is? Like, what has been successful about your style of marketing, or what's been working for you guys?
Yeah. So my marketing team I freaking love them. They're amazing. So I've been with them for over a year now. I started with them in October, and I think it's when we met, one of the things that I remember talking to you about was that fact, I just don't have time for this. I don't have time for social media. I can't put any of this stuff together. And it was such a negative space because I'm like, this is never going to work because I can't even get the word out there. And as an entrepreneur, you learned putting the right people in the right seats at the right time is so important. And that was where that marketing team came in. And I met them through, I think, another nurse practitioner group. Another NP was talking about them. And so I interviewed her, and I talked to her, the owner, directly. Her name is Jessica. And we just kind of clicked right off the bat. And I was like, okay, we'll try this out and see. And I had them kind of do all my branding, all my rebranding, my website, my socials, just kind of take it over. With some oversight, of course, especially for the medical information that's there. It's twofold, I think. I think it's the efforts that they're putting in, of course, and keeping the socials alive and keeping the website updated. But also I do a lot of grassroots stuff. Like I'm literally out there in the community at events, having a table out there, giving out fun, quirky stickers, or doing IV drips or B12 shots or discounted B12 shots or something like that. So people can learn about what we do. I feel like if you don't put yourself out there, it's not like you're just like, they're just going to randomly find your website. Maybe they will, but to build that trust, you have to put yourself out there. You have to get to know the community and let the community get to know you.
Yeah, I mean, it's an average of 8 touch points. And I even think that's being generous, to be honest. And so I talk about this all the time in terms of the hybrid approach. And I think you nailed it. I think there's a degree of in-person, going to events, networking, as to your words, grassroots. But I also think that the digital thing just adds an extra layer. And people think it's one or the other, or it's like, I can just create content or I can just do the networking. And like what I tell people all the time too is like, even if your content doesn't get a bunch of likes or a bunch of comments or whatever, it actually warms up your audience. It makes you relatable. They can see you. They can see what you're about. It feels authentic. Like, assuming you're not being weird, but like generally speaking, like that's the value of content, is all the lurkers that aren't engaging, that see you, and then they see you at an event, and then they feel like they know you, and they're like, oh, and they're already warm. And it like, I'm sure that happens all the time, but
it does happen a lot. I actually recently had a fertility patient who asked me to come help her, and she's like, I've been watching your socials for a while.
Exactly.
And it's now my turn, and I want you to come and do my shots for me. And I'm like, wow, that's so cool. I didn't know that. But I think it's also the backup proof, right? So if someone meets you and then they go to your website and there's nothing on your website, or they go look at your social media and there's like 2 posts on your social media. It's like, do I really trust you? Like, you don't practice what you preach here. And so I think by putting your name out there, putting your face out there, it took me a long time to be comfortable in front of the camera or filming reels and like talking to it like just the camera. But it makes such a big difference to do that, because it just builds that trust.
Yeah, because if you take the polar opposite, is like, think about your own buying behaviors. Is if you want to find out about a business or a brand or a person for that matter, what do? You Google, and you almost always end up on their social.
100%.
In some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't exist, that's automatically a red flag for most people, whether you like it or not.
It's actually one of the first places I go. So if I do find their website, I scroll to the bottom or look at the top, and I'm like, where are their social links? Because I want to see what they're posting there.
100%.
Because then you also get in our society these days, right? We're like instant gratification. And I'm like, I just want to see your facts. Like, give me your highlight reel, right? Let me go to your Instagram and just see what you're posting about. What are you about? And that's where I feel like I can get it, versus like going through the website and like page after page. Like, that's there and that's important to have for people to learn a little bit more. But I just want the highlight reel.
Yeah, you can go both directions. I also want to make that note as well, is that like, if I go to your social or your Facebook or your website and it's poorly done and it's poorly branded and the photos are very granular and all those things, you also have an association and assume that about the business as well. True. Is if they don't take the effort to put the social into some sort of decent quality or even semi-educational or entertaining, I assume that about your business as well. So
it's very true. It's very true.
On that note, you mentioned the marketing team. I just got to tell this quick story. So what I'm talking about is you gave us this awesome IV therapy, me and my girlfriend and our friend Connor. And I did a post about it, talking about how like I believe that all healthcare professionals should have their own business. And I don't actually know if you know this about that post, but that post that I did about your service, is the highest impression post I've ever done.
What?
Yeah.
You're welcome. That's crazy.
It was literally us four just standing there.
Yeah.
And then it was a description about how like I got fired as an OT and like how it just put me in a bad place.
Yeah,
and
I remember that.
Yeah. That.
Oh my gosh.
It has like 100,000+ something like that.
That's
impressions.
insane. Because it resonates with people, right? Is because there are people that are just staying in jobs that they're not happy with. And then to be able to have the courage to step out and say, I'm going all in on this. And I say this hypocritically, right? Because I'm still straddling that W-2. It's like golden handcuffs, right? But to jump in, like people, I think they resonate with seeing someone who's done that before, and it empowers them to do the same.
Especially right now in the healthcare industry. I just partnered with another company who basically helps healthcare professionals get a tech job or a different position, like outside of patient care or clinical care.
Like totally different.
100%.
180, yeah.
And it's because there's so many people that want to get out of it.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate too. It's just, I could get on a soapbox about the medical system and I won't. I really could.
Same.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Really good. That'll be a long podcast.
So you have a quote that I pulled that says, like having a bestie who is also a medical expert. Where did that come from, or what does that mean to you?
Yeah. So my biggest thing is whenever you're going into someone's home and they're vulnerable and they're sick, like, yes, I could go there and be like very cut and dry and just professional and like not, but the way that I've always practiced, whether it's at work and labor and delivery as a nurse or as a nurse practitioner, is that the nature of my job has always been very intimate, right? In women's health, doing their annual exams, like infertility, the conversations we're having are intimate. Like, I think it's important for you to build that trust. And one of the first things I do is build a friendship with my clients. Is like, okay, let's be real here. Let's just talk as friends. Like, yeah, I've got the knowledge that I can help you with it, but like, let's get down to the nitty gritty of what's going on and help to work through that. Because if you can't build that trust, it's hard to help someone through their healing journey and coach them. And so I think building that friendship is really important. And that's kind of where the Your Nurse Friend thing came from, is that, you know, it is a friend that you can call and I'll be there for you and I can be there to help you. And like, you can text me and like, I'll freaking help you over text. It's great. But also like when you're like, well, you know, let me call when something's going on, you're like, well, let me call my lawyer friend. Let me call my doctor friend. Let me call my nurse friend. So it just kind of works.
I love it. I mean, it's that empathy shining through, honestly, is what I see from it. Because even when I used to work as an OT, there was a handful of doctors, and nothing against doctors in any way, shape, or form, but I think there's a lot of them that get into it out of ego as opposed to out of empathy. Mm-hmm. And I worked with a handful of those where like, they didn't really care. Yeah. They just were like pretty smart people. They did the grind. They did the hustle. They wanted the paycheck. And then they're doctors, and it's not a great place.
Some part of it too, and this is going to get back on the soapbox of the medical system, is I feel like there's been like, and I alluded to this earlier, of like not wanting to go to medical school for this reason. I feel like the empathy is just beaten out of you when you're going through med school and residency, and everything's just, it's hard. It's not easy by any means. And so I think there are a lot of physicians that may lose that side of things. And there are some amazing physicians that still have that empathy and are fantastic. And I work with two of them.
Speaking of that, so how do you balance having this business and then also doing a W-2? Or maybe you don't.
It's a lot. My days are long. Some days even longer than intended. But, you know, you have to stay organized. You have to love what you do to really be able to say, okay, after work, I'm going to grind and see like 5 more people, and I'm going to drive across Austin, and then 45 minutes here, 20 minutes there.
How long is a visit?
It depends on what I'm going for. So if it's just a shot, it could be 10 minutes, 15 minutes. If it's an IV drip, it could be an hour. So let's say on average, 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
How many hours are you putting outside of your W-2?
Oh my God, a lot.
Like all the time?
It's literally after work, I am hustling. On weekends, I hustle all day, every day as well. And now appointments are sporadic. So it's not like I don't have closing hours necessarily, because I want to be able to be there for somebody, right? Now, there are days where I'm like, okay, Tania, you should stop. You have to say no today because you need to sit down. Like, you need to sleep, you need to rest, you need to recharge. And there are days where I have to absolutely unplug. And admittedly, I'm not good at that. I'm a little bit of a workaholic. And so, which doesn't help the whole situation, but it is important to find that time and rest. But I love what I get to do. It's amazing.
If you weren't so far away from me on this table, I'd high five you.
Air five.
Yeah, it's just great. It's just great to see. It's great to see the hustle. I mean, coined to the podcast show called the Health Hustle, and I know that word is like rubs people the wrong way sometimes. But I will die on the hill of like, I think more people are just being too lackadaisical and not really chasing what they really want.
Yeah.
Especially in, like, nothing against Austin. I love Austin, but I think there's a lot of people here who are like, just go with the flow and very hippie, and I'll just do it when I feel like it.
Yeah.
And it's like,
look at all the time is now.
Yeah, like
we can make a change here. If we
100%.
just put some effort into it and put some drive into it, we can do amazing things.
And that was a big part of, honestly, naming the show initially. It was like, hustle to me doesn't mean like burn yourself out and like slam yourself in the ground. Yeah. It means like move towards something you care about with intention.
Exactly.
Like if you love it, which you do, then go hard. Like, that's great.
Yeah. And this, honestly, like, business was not on my radar. It was never my intention to start it. It just, when it happened and it was successful because I was able to help people, and it was so internally fulfilling. And from there I was like, okay, bet, let's do this. Like, I can do this, and we can create something big. And so I'm excited for 2025 goals because I'm working on getting some nurses hired on so we can help even more people on the IV side, on the fertility side of things. And then just as things continue to grow, I'm so excited for the future of it.
Thanks for that great segue, because that was actually what I wanted to tap into next. I'm curious, now that you're literally grinding, are you hiring? Like, how are you finding people? What does that look like for you?
So yes and no. So I've had nurses that have reached out to me to just interested in joining on. I just wasn't quite ready for them just yet. I'm like, okay, in 3 months, and the next quarter. But there's just so much. Process is so important, right? And having something that is easily replicated, but also that can be easily passed on to somebody else is really important. So a lot of what I've been working on, at least in the second half of this year, is getting all the financials in order and getting the processes solidified. So that way, when I do bring on a nurse, hopefully Q1, then everything's just kind of set, and it's like, okay, here's the manual, here's your training, here's what we're going to do, and then have them just running off from there. That's the goal. So yes and no. Hiring soon. I do have some nurses that I work with like every now and then that I can tag for things, and some medical assistants that I can tag for things, but no one on contract yet.
Do you have somebody helping you figure out these systems and processes, or is this just like trial by fire at this point?
So I am part of a greater mastermind group of health and wellness entrepreneurs nationwide. These are people that have...
What's it called?
It's called the Bio Boardroom.
Okay.
I'm going into my second year with them, and it's been...
So you were with them before you even started the business?
I started with them a few months after I started the business.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So it was October of last year.
Got it.
October. Yeah. So we're starting our second.
So you were right away like, I need coaching.
I did. I jumped in, and a lot of people are afraid of like spending the money towards this stuff. And I was too. But when I went to this, I learned about them through an IV conference that happened to be in Austin last year. And I went to it and met a lot of people and learned about it. And I was like, that's what I need. I need those people to help me figure out what the heck I'm doing so we can figure this out the right way. And it has been invaluable to the growth of my business. I have access to over 100 other business owners that I can text anytime and say, what is your contract for hiring nurses? Like, let me see a copy of your contract. Or what is your process? What is your payment process are you using? What's your cocktail for X and Y IV drip? These are people that may be solopreneurs. They may have clinics. They may have franchises. Like, it's incredible the access that I'm able to have with these people. And everyone is so giving. Everyone's in the same boat. They're all trying to help each other. And there's this mindset of everyone can learn from everybody. So even though I'm a solo right now, I've had franchise owners ask me about things, kind of coming back to the grassroots of things, like when you first started. And it's just an amazing environment where like literally anyone can share anything with anyone. It's fantastic. And that's been pivotal to my growth and being able to put these processes together.
And these are all nurse business owners?
They're nurses, they're physicians, they're physician's assistant, they're chiropractors.
Oh, wow.
They're
so healthcare
business owners, not even healthcare professionals, just business owners that are in the wellness space. So it's quite a wide variety of people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've learned a lot from it, but I'm curious, like, what are some of the major takeaways that you got from it? And is it only coaching and networking and collaboration, or is there like training in there? Like, what are the big takeaways?
There's a lot of training in there.
Okay.
There's a lot of like MBA level type of training.
Got it.
There's the clinical side as well. There are multiple mentors on every aspect, whether it's adding modalities, business development, the financial side of things,
Wow.
mental, what's the word I'm
Mindset.
looking for? Mindset. Yes. Mindset coaches, things like that. So really you're getting all aspects of it. And I think the most valuable thing that I take away from that is literally the people. It's networking with other business owners that I can, again, reach out to if I need anything, that we have this mutual understanding and trust. We're not competitors. We're all here to help keep the community healthy. And so it's this like mass movement type of thing where everyone's kind of going towards the same goals. And it just makes it such a great environment to learn from. I have met, even in Austin, a lot of the other larger IV organizations that are here, they're owners through that. And they're such amazing people. And I'm like, happy to refer to you if I can't see someone, or they're happy to refer to me if they can't see someone for whatever reason. And we've such a great mutual understanding. It's such a great community.
You're making these segues easy. I was literally just going to ask about competitors, but it sounds like it's very collaborative.
Yeah. And I'm sure there are some that may not be as collaborative. And I think it all is in how you approach things. Like, I am very open to helping. I have given IV bags to competitors. I'm like, hey, there's an IV shortage. You need IV bags. Like, they'll send me a message on Instagram and we'll just create a working relationship and like help each other out. And I'm like, well, how did you get that? Where did you order those vitamins from or something? And, you just build that friendship. Like, we're literally in it for the same goals, right? Like, there's enough people out there for everybody. There's enough patients out there for everybody to be able to help. I think what's the most valuable thing is we can help each other get to that goal. So one of my now good friends, she reached out to me. She's got a drip business on the south side of Austin. I'm usually on the north side, but I have patients everywhere. And she was like, I really need some IV bags. Can I just buy 10 IV bags off of you? And I was like, hell yeah, let's meet up here. I'll give them to you, no problem. Because there is an IV shortage after the hurricanes hit. And so a lot of the main IV production factories went down, and even the hospitals weren't getting an allocation for saline bags. And so let alone our small businesses, we aren't going to get an allocation, right? So it was really teamwork and making sure that we're able to help each other in that time.
What happens in that scenario? Do the prices of the bags just get more expensive, or are they just non-existent?
They're just non-existent.
So what do you do?
Businesses have to slow down, unfortunately. Luckily for me, by some chance, I happened to overstock an order like 2 months before. It was a blind mistake on my part, and I was like, "Dang it! I just double ordered." But thank goodness, it was a good, happy mistake for me. But yeah, it's like if the hospital can't have an IV bag to do a surgery, why would I give you an IV bag is what I would think from like the manufacturer side of things. And so you really do. And I think that's where it's important too, from the business perspective, is to have different modalities in your business and different ways to help people, so that if one side does happen to get shut down, say for example, taking, that was the IV side of it, all the weight loss medications, right? So the GLPs, we keep going back and forth on, is tirzepatide on the shortage list or not? Like, can compounding pharmacies make it? Or are we just gonna like big pharma I could get on the soapbox of that too, like all this big pharma stuff. But say compounding pharmacies or other pharmacies will no longer source these medications to you and your clients. What are you going to do? Is your business going to shut down? Like, you better have another backup plan. There's got to be other things that you can do to help your patients. So you don't want to ever be a one-trick pony. It's important to have different things, especially in the health and wellness space, because there are so many different ways you can help people. It's not just one medication or one thing that should be the key.
I didn't realize you were in the peptide game.
I am. I love peptide. That's great.
So Ozempic, that's one of the big ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's been your experience with people getting these? Because essentially, for people that don't know, it just like gets rid of your hunger, essentially, at the end of the day, correct?
Yeah, that's what it's most known for, but it is so much more than just that. So it helps to decrease inflammation, helps to rebalance that insulin resistance that's going on. I think there are now studies that are showing that it can be cardioprotective. Like, there's a lot of great benefits to it. And you'll see more and more studies about microdosing these medications for example, women that are going through perimenopause or menopause to help with their symptoms as well. So there's a lot of great studies that are coming. However, it is important that you're not being a cowboy. These are still medications, and they can still do bad things to you if you're just like willy-nilly taking them and just upping your dose. And it's just, there's a lot of, let's be real, you can get these for real cheap online, but like, ain't nobody gonna follow you there's not a doctor following you. There's not a nurse practitioner following you. You're on your own to figure that stuff out. So like, I implore the audience to please, 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 if you're going to use these medications, do it with a trained provider, a medical practitioner who can help you through the process.
Okay.
Good Lord.
The reason I'm laughing, I literally just had a call with one of my really good buddies I went to college with like a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And to your point, he's like, yeah, I bought some online.
Oh, geez. Oh, God.
And he's like, yeah, you just like put an injection in and you just inject it. And he's like, it was amazing. He's like, I wasn't hungry. He's like, I didn't eat for like a month.
Oh my God. What?
And he's like, yeah, I was just trying to get rid of that dad weight. And the whole time I'm listening, I'm like, you're an idiot. And,
oh my God.
And he's like, yeah, the downside though is he's like, I really fucked my gut up though. He's like, a bunch of GI stuff I'm sure slows down and et cetera, et cetera. And
that's why it's important to do it carefully.
Yeah.
So you don't shut your gut down and end up in the ER. And I say that with a little bit of personal proof, because I was being a cowboy at some point, because I've been on these medications on and off for the last few years. And this year, I was back on them because I went through an egg preservation cycle for myself earlier this year. And with all the hormonal changes, I had gained a lot of weight and got back after I was done with that part of it, at least the first round of it. I got back on the medications and dropped like 30, 35 pounds, which is fantastic. Damn. I feel great. Wow. But at some point I was like, I can handle a higher dose. Let me just inject myself with a higher dose on a Sunday night. And then I had a full freaking dinner of P.F. Chang's. It was like noodles. They were really good. And then I was like, God, I feel a little nauseated. So I took a medication called Zofran, which happens to also cause constipation.
Oh, no.
And so I wake up the next morning and I'm like, man, I feel really bad, but I've got a full schedule today. I have to be at work. So I'm making it to work and I'm like, man, my stomach is hurting, like these sharp pains in my abdomen. And I get to work at 8 a.m. By 8:10, I am tapped out. I am like projectile vomiting.
Oh, no.
I'm sharp pain in my stomach. Like I'm hanging over my trash can in my office, and one of the docs comes in and goes, you should probably go home. And I'm like,
you're like, yeah,
I probably should, like 10 hours ago. But truly what I did was I shut my gut down. It's because I took a higher dose of medication when I shouldn't have. On top of that, I took nausea medication that slows down your gut, and I ate a full meal. So I just like stopped everything up, and now my body is violently reacting to it. I went home that day. It took me 2 hours to get out of work that day because I was in so much pain. I had to call a friend to drive me home because there was no way I was going to be able to drive. And she got me back to my apartment, and I got in bed, and I was in bed until like 2 p.m. that day, until finally I think things are moving and the pain had settled down. And I was like, okay, I'm taking a break. I can't keep doing this. So really, really important that you don't put yourself in that kind of situation where you're like on the cusp of calling the ER. That's not the right way to take these medications. It's important to increase your doses slowly. And people get impatient because like the first month that you're on it, you're like, I haven't seen any weight loss, or I've only lost 1 pound. And like, it's okay. It's going to take time to get to your sweet spot dose, and we have to do it slowly so that you're not having these adverse effects. And also, you need to build healthy habits during this time. You can't just eat whatever you want. You can't just sit and binge watch Netflix. You need to have an exercise regimen. You need to have a healthy diet. You need to do this the right way to have long-term sustained weight loss. It's not a magic pill. It's something that you still have to work towards, because once you come off the medications, if you've not changed your habits, you're going to slowly gain that back. It's not as rubber band as previous weight loss modalities have been, like phentermine and stuff like that, where people will rubber band and then some. But you can have that weight gain back if you're like literally eating a bag of chips for every meal. You really can't do that. It doesn't work that way.
Folks, no cowboy in it. We don't need any of that.
No. Even in Texas.
Yeah, no kidding. And it was horrible stabbing gut pains.
Yeah, not fun.
So in regards to the business, coming up on 2 years here, what's maybe the biggest mistake you've made over that past year, or something you would have done differently?
Oh man, yes. Let's talk about shiny object syndrome.
Okay.
When it comes to, for me, it was shiny object syndrome in getting the right team on board, or the right tools on board. So my marketing team, fantastic. We went through our ups and downs. We learned each other, and we got to a point where things are flowing beautifully now. And I think it's important for everyone to know that with any marketing agency that you use or marketing team that you use, it takes time to get to a place where things are going to be successful. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to be patient with it. You have to trust the process and let the experts do what they're trained to do. But I think my other two things were finding the right financial team, accountants, bookkeepers, tax strategists, et cetera, which I finally am in a place where I've got some amazing people on board. But I went through 3 entities this year, spent a lot of money on all those entities to kind of do my bookkeeping and tax strategy. All of them were terrible. So I'm really excited for this new group to come on who's familiar with the wellness side, the medical side.
What happened with the old ones? Just like not responsive, or what was the issue?
Well, the first one was a large online accounting firm that they were organizing all of my stuff, and then come March, the accountant disappeared. Okay. And I'm like, taxes, hello, it's March. Like, where did you, like for 2 weeks, I had no idea where this accountant was. And they had deadlines that they missed in February, and then late February, and then early March. And I'm like, hello. Wow. Like, this is really important. You're gonna make me late for my taxes, and we could file an extension or whatever, but still. And so it was really hard to get a response out of them. They just literally disappeared, and they wanted to fight me on it. And they're like, no, but we're doing it now. I'm like, yeah, but it's too late now. You already breached contract here. And so I had to fight the credit card company and all that on that stuff. It was a disaster. And then the second person that I hired on was inexpensive and was going to do bookkeeping for me. Really, really nice person. Like, genuinely, like, I would be that person's friend outside of business stuff, but like basic bookkeeping, and not familiar with the medical world and how things should be classified. And at some point, I didn't know where my money was. I didn't know where it was spent. And we just had to stop because it was just a mess. First of all, QuickBooks is a beast in itself, right? So like finding someone who's well-versed in QuickBooks was important. I was like, okay, she's got it. She can do it. But I think it was beyond her knowledge base. And at some point we had to just part ways because of that. And then the third person was an accountant who works with many businesses, many health and wellness businesses, many medical practices, but truly was just going to do the tax part of it. And I was like, you can set up QuickBooks however you want. And I'm like, but I need you to fix my chart of accounts. Like, I need you to do these specific things to help me out because you have the knowledge and the expertise and I don't. And that just wasn't his jam. And I was like, all right, Captain, like, I think we're done here. And so this new group that I finally got on board kind of does everything. And it was an investment to get them on, and it's going to be an investment moving forward, but they know their stuff and it's proven. And I've seen them work with other businesses and referrals, and they're actually part of the boardroom. That's how I met them. And so they do a lot of financial training in the boardroom. And I'm like, all right, I'm in. I'll take my money and fix it. Yeah.
You know, something, I don't know if you seem like a pretty self-aware person, but like something I'm noticing just on a lot of what you're talking about now is you seem to know your lane, which I think most people don't. I think a lot of things, and I'm talking to myself here as well, but I think a lot of things that people struggle with, especially as business owners, is that we try to hold on to everything, oftentimes because of control issues or whatever the case might be. But that's oftentimes the worst thing you can do. And you seem to be aware of the fact of like financial, marketing, etc. Like, you should probably just not do that.
I think I've learned to let go.
Yeah.
At the beginning, I didn't. At the beginning, I wanted to wear all the hats. Like, I can handle it. I can do it. Like, it can't be, let me just Google sheet it. Right. And like, but at some point the beast gets too big and you just need someone else who's just more well-versed in it. And it's just like, it's like if someone was coming to me, right, as a patient and wanted to tell me what to do, right? It's kind of like that. You just go, let the experts do what the experts are supposed to do. And one of the things I learned through the boardroom, and I'm going to forget the name of the book. It's essentially a book that talks about, it's a business book. It tells you about, putting the right people in the right seats at the right time. Was it in Traction?
I don't know.
Anyways, I'll have to remember it. I'll think about it and I'll text you. But essentially it was something I had to learn, was getting the right people there and allowing them to do their stuff without stepping on their toes. So like the marketing team, for example, when we first started, I would scrutinize every post and like every single word they wrote. And I'm like, why did you spell it that way? And then, except for I should have just been paying attention to, is the medical information correct? And let them do their marketing magic,
Totally.
right? And it's gotten to that point now where I just go through and I do the proofing of like, is this accurate information? And like, you do the glitz and glam part. Like that's literally your expertise. You do it. And so you have to learn how to let go of those things. And so I recently brought on a business consultant as well, who's also helping with a lot of the processes. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit back. I'm going to let her like teach me what she needs to teach me on how to do this stuff. And that's been the hardest thing ever. But like the magic that this woman has done in like 2 weeks that I couldn't do in 2 years, it's amazing. So if you just trust the process as you're going through it, it's really important.
One of the most important books I've ever read, and it could be wrapped up into a single sentence, but it's often cruised over and not really taken into consideration, is Who Not How. So Dr. Benjamin Hardy wrote the book. It's called Who Not How. And the philosophy is exactly that, is that oftentimes, especially as business owners, we want to figure out how to do something, and it's often the wrong question.
Yeah.
A better question to ask is like, who can do this? And then
Yes.
find that person. Because you think you're saving yourself money, maybe even time, because you can just do it yourself. It'll be faster, it'll be easier.
Yeah.
Rarely is that ever true.
Yeah. You're just going to spend way more time trying to figure it out on your own.
100%.
And it's just not, you could be doing so much more in your business and helping so many more people.
Where do you envision the future of this? Where do you see things going? I mean, as much as you can share anyways. I know you've shared a little bit, but
Yeah. So, initially when I started, it was just supposed to be a side hustle. It was just something I could do after work and help people. And, if it's busy, it's busy. If it's not, it's not, but as things have grown, I'm very excited for the future and where it could go. And I imagine, having clinics in all the major cities, starting with right here in Texas, starting with Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Houston. So when we rebranded and created the logo, the intent behind the way the logo is that, so it's ATX and it says Your Nurse Friend underneath it. And the intention is those letters at the top change with the city, right? So it could be SATX or DFW or HTX, right? So that's the intention behind that. So it can become something that could be franchisable in the future. I'm excited to see, especially in the niche that I'm in, I'm excited to see how much more we can support that community on the fertility side, on the health and wellness side, just, across cities.
Love it. I got a round of rapid fire questions for you.
Oh boy. Okay.
It's whatever the first thing is that comes to mind.
Oh gosh.
What's your best business advice?
Just do it.
Nike.
Oh, damn it. No, but really it is just jump in with 2 feet. I tend to overthink a lot of things. And so sometimes you just got to do it.
What's your best marketing advice?
Show up. Just show up.
It's grassroots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's my bread and butter.
What's your favorite part about entrepreneurship?
I don't know. It's a lot of work.
You're like nothing at this moment. There's too many things.
I think it's exciting. Just the personal growth that you get from it is really exciting.
Totally. When are you the most productive?
Like what time of day?
Sure.
Probably this time of day.
Night.
Yeah, I'm a night owl. I get a lot of my work done in the after hours.
Love that.
Yeah.
Who is your inspiration?
Oh man. So many people. We don't have to skip that one.
All right.
Yeah.
Tell me one secret or something most people don't know about you.
Oh my God. These are getting deep real fast.
Got to work into them.
One secret some people don't know about me.
Yeah, what's something people don't know about you? You got a hidden talent or skill or unique place you went or know something most people don't know? Or
I'm an avid stock and options trader.
Okay. I did see that note actually.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
I know it's such a random thing because you go from healthcare to empathy wellness to
Stock.
options shark. It's a lot of fun to me. It's like the adult coloring book in my head.
And is this like day trading?
Like day trading.
You're
So
just buying
just
and selling
off my
stocks?
phone. Yeah.
Is this like Robin Hood? You're just on there just like...
So I use Webull, not Robinhood, because so many reasons. But
Okay.
but it's something that I learned that my dad, now that he's retired, trades a lot of stocks, and he's been in our ear for years. And of course, during the pandemic, when everybody else got into trading stocks in the GameStop era and the AMC era, I kind of got into it. But then I realized I got to really learn this. And so when I like to learn things, I go all in. So I would spend Saturdays at Mozart's and just go through stock classes and how to trade options and stuff like that, and taught myself how to do it. And I'm part of a lot of, I'm like lifetime members for the stock and options group that I will like just jump into the chat room while at work when I have a break between patients and just trade. It's great.
So am I sitting in front of Warren Buffett and I don't know it, or what?
No, you never know. I'll let you know.
Sitting on a unicorn that I should know about?
I don't know about that. Not that good, but.
What would you change about yourself?
What would I change about myself? Probably finding a balance between work and rest, if I could. That's really hard for me. Really hard for me.
Agreed. What keeps you motivated?
People. Seeing people happy, seeing people healthy.
What's your favorite part about Austin, and you can't say the people?
Oh, my favorite part about Austin, honestly, is the landscape here. It's the nature. It's literally being able to be in the city and then be on the water within minutes, or be on a hike. I just love the versatility that we have here. It's amazing.
Appreciate that. I want to acknowledge you for hustling.
Thank you.
As a W-2, as a business owner, as a friend, as an empathetic person, driving all the way down here to do this podcast interview, I just want to acknowledge, like, I love the grind. I love the hustle,
Thank
honestly.
you. I appreciate that. And thank you for having me. This has been amazing.
What's your plug? Where can people find you?
So I am on all socials. So you can find me on Instagram at Nurse Friend ATX. Same thing on Facebook and LinkedIn. And I'm on Threads too. But, we're learning Threads, new platform. But yeah, Nurse Friend ATX.
I can't believe people still use Threads. That's crazy to me.
Every time I go, there's like more and more people on there. I guess it's growing.
You know what I'm looking forward to? I predict in the very near future that there will be a social media platform that doesn't allow AI. And I can't wait for it, because
that's going to be amazing.
I'm getting annoyed by having to try to figure out if something is even real or not.
It's crazy. Even down to like reels and videos. You're like, sometimes you can tell like that person's mouth is moving funny and it doesn't look natural, but like it's scary.
The fact that I have to decipher that and to figure that out is annoying to me.
That's very true.
I saw my girlfriend sent me a reel between Joe Rogan and Elon Musk and found out it was like not real, but it looked very real. And I was like, this is insane. This is annoying.
It's like it just opens the door for so many bad things to happen in the future. Like you really can't believe what you see. We used to not be able to believe what you see. Now you really can't believe what you see.
I know.
It's insane.
That's why I said I can't wait for a social. I predict there will be a platform where it's like they just don't allow it, because that's well, I hope anyways.
Let's see.
Last question. It's really whatever your best piece of advice is. So if you were to go back to ground zero of starting your business and you were to give advice to your younger self or anybody else in that circumstance, what would you tell them?
Don't let anyone tell you can't do it. You can do whatever you put your mind to. I'm very much, one of my taglines, I guess, is hold my non-alcoholic beer, because I don't drink. And so, when someone poses a good challenge to me, I'm like, hold my beer, hold my non-alcoholic beer. Let me show you how to do it. And that's why I'm doing the W-2 and the business at the same time. Yeah.
Love it. Cool. Thanks for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.